I sat through watching the speech that you made in Strasbourg. You've been very critical of some of your colleagues in the European Parliament for their position on the Middle East. Why is that?
Well, I think the European Union has always claimed to stand for international law, for human rights. What we've seen in the Middle East since basically the genocide in Gaza, but also right now with the attacks on Lebanon and on Iran by the United States and Israel, is that they've basically been supporting these illegal wars. And so that's absolutely unacceptable. We cannot have these double standards where we speak about international law when it comes to, I don't know, Russia, but we basically support the worst violations of human rights and international law when it comes to Israel and the United States.
The European Parliament is a broad church. We should explain there are obviously many parties and many different views. I wonder if, however, you could generalise and perhaps define the general sentiment towards what's happening in the Middle East among European Parliament members.
Well, I think you've got different policies, different politics, obviously, different political parties. I think there's this coalition, the majority coalition behind Ursula von der Leyen, who's the chairman the chairwoman of the European Commission, so a little bit the executive of the European Union, who basically supports her stance, and her stance has been very pro-United States, very pro-Israel. So that is a disaster, I would say, for Europe, because once again, that completely, why would people in Asia, in Africa, in Latin America give any credibility to the European Union if it cannot stand up for the things it claims to stand for, right? But then you also have, fortunately, political debate, and you have people more towards the left of the hemicycle that are saying, listen, guys, we cannot have this hypocrisy. We cannot follow US imperialism. We cannot ourselves be complicit in funding, for example, a genocide against the Palestinians, or in closing our eyes when UN peacekeepers are bombed in Lebanon by the Israelis. So you have this debate, but it very much depends basically on how people on the streets mobilize, because we as parliamentarians obviously feel the pressure from public opinion.
Presumably, though, you're not defending the Iranian regime. Would you be happy to see them go?
But that is up to the Iranians to decide. I mean, we in the European Parliament, we need to make sure that we do not ourselves, you know, this is about, we are European politicians in Europe, right? So what we are responsible for is how our countries, our European Union, behave, right? And so we should make it clear that we stand for international law, we stand for human rights, right? Everywhere, and this means that bombing people, you know, you're not going to bring any kind of human rights to Iran or any kind of democracy or whatsoever, whatever you wanna talk about, by bombing schools, by bombing the industry, by whatever. And this is why we have the UN Charter. You know, the UN Charter is there to say, you know, whatever differences there are amongst nations, they should be solved in a peaceful manner. You know, that's the lesson that countries are supposed to have learned after the Second World War.
The EU likes to think of itself as a big global player, doesn't it? That it's an influential player. I mean, the truth is that it's not, is it? Ursula von der Leyen calls for peace. Is anyone listening?
No, I don't think they are right now, and the reason, of course, is that if you, you know, bandwagon behind other countries, and in this case, the United States, then there's no reason for other countries to take the EU seriously. You know, if the EU wants to be taken seriously, it should, on the one hand, you know, be clear on its principles and and act upon those, and on the other hand, say, you know, we will diversify our relations. We stand for multilateralism. We stand for multipolarity. And we will discuss, we will intensify our relations with other countries, with, I don't know, India, China, Brazil, South Africa. We will not just be, you know, a junior partner to US imperialism. And that is clearly a choice that Ursula von der Leyen today has not made, and the EU establishment is yet to make. But there is, I do believe, a strong pressure coming from public opinion to say, listen, this war on Iran, this illegal war on Iran, these massacres in Lebanon and in Palestine, these are not our wars. We do not stand for them, and they're not in our interests, because, you know, energy prices are going up and ordinary Europeans are paying for that.
Where does this Middle East crisis leave our traditional alliances and the global institutions that we've all grown up with?
Well, I think Europe has a strategic choice to make. Either it makes the choice of standing up for that order of where we say, listen, sovereignty, self-determination, peace are important, or they run after the Trump administration's systematic destruction of this UN-based order. And so it's really the choices that are being made today are going to determine what world we are going to live in and what world we're going to see our children grow up in. Is that going to be a world where you can just kidnap the president of a sovereign country, as happened in Venezuela, where you can just bomb schools, as happened in Gaza, in Iran right now? Is it a world where you can, basically strangle an entire country, as the United States are currently doing to Cuba? Or is it a world of justice, of peace, and of equality amongst nations? And this is a choice the EU needs to make. Ursula von der Leyen has said that she doesn't want to defend the old world order. Now, we very clearly want to defend the world order of peace and equality.
How challenging, though, would it be for Europe to try to forge its own path independently from its traditional allies?
Well, it would be a challenge, but when Russia invaded Ukraine, there was a lot of talk about the dependence, the energy dependency European nations had vis-à-vis Russia, right? And so there was a move away from that. Now, if you would look objectively at the situation right now in Europe, there's a lot of talk about dependencies vis-à-vis China, but in reality, the country we are most dependent on is the United States. I'm thinking now of energy, obviously, the LNG imports, but I'm also thinking about like the clouds, digital matters, these big US digital companies that are basically dominating our market. So we would need a consistent effort, a public investment drive into these strategic industries, which is not something that the EU has been doing for the last decades, and this has thrown us back. We're now basically lagging behind, not just the US, but also China. So it would require a very clear public industrial policy on the one hand, and secondly, to say, listen, there's a lot of emerging powers, let's call them this way, emerging economies or economies that have emerged from Indonesia to Brazil, from China to India. And we want to develop our relations with all of them in order for us to be, a multilateral player that can have autonomy, that can, be interdependent. We will export things and we will import things, and other countries will do the same. But this requires an acceptance of equality amongst nations. We need to go to other countries with respect, no longer with this, what we've seen with EU relations towards Africa in a very arrogant, a very almost colonial spirit, So it's going to be a challenge both internally and externally in order to fundamentally break away with a number of traditions EU policy has fostered over the last decades.
The UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer has called for a closer relationship with Europe, particularly on security and trade. Do you want the UK back?
Well, I think, good relations with the UK. The UK is not very far away from the mainland. Good relations with the UK are always a good idea. I am, however, skeptical of the positions I've seen Keir Starmer take in regard to the Iran war. If we want a Europe based on the respect for international law, for example, Keir Starmer initially was very enthusiastic with the idea of joining the US war of aggression against Iran. That is not the kind of Europe we want. So yes, I think it would be very beneficial to all Europeans and people in the UK to have more exchanges, to be able to trade easily and whatever. But I'm sure that people in the UK as well have seen the mobilizations. They want peace and they want social justice. And I'm sure that with a lot of people in Europe, we can create trade and relations based on these principles.
Marc Botenga, member of the European Parliament, talking to us in Brussels. Thank you very much.